It's Tuesday, October 13th. We are just 80 days away from the new year and thankfully 21 days, 3 weeks away from Election Day. Well, hey, let's get after it today. First up on our list today, a fun one. It is National M&M Day. Boy, M&Ms got their start back in the 1940s. Soldiers carried something called Smarties, which was a chocolate wrapped in a candy coating to help them have chocolates on the field. The Mars Company bought it. The 1941 factory put it together. And in 1949, the phrase started, melts in your mouth, not in your hand. That white M you see on the M&Ms came about in 1954. It had been black up until that point, but they wanted to be more prominent, more easily seen. So they changed it over to white. And then for a 10-year period, they made the red M&Ms disappear because there was a fear that the red dye was causing problems. Turned out it wasn't the case. Although they replaced red with orange, they kept all the colors, and we have all those wonderful tasty treats that melt in our mouths. Great day for education here. It's Train Your Brain Day. Yes, train your brain. The only way to get smarter is to keep pushing that thing. Still don't know exactly how much of our brains we use every day, or how much brain power we actually use up. But today is a great day to try some word puzzles, some number games, some brain teasers. Hey, give some of these a shot. More food brings us to National Yorkshire Pudding Day. Kind of comes from Europe, mostly UK. It's kind of like a popover. You throw your gravy and your butter and your roasted meat of some kind inside the dough, fold it over and cook it on up. Tasty treat. And that music you hear in the background is Anchors Aweigh. It is the theme for the United States Navy. On October 13, 1775, the U.S. Navy consisted of a whopping 2 ships. But Congress created the U.S. Navy so we could say we had one. It has grown exponentially since then. We now have 340,000 midshipmen in our Navy on active duty and several more thousand in reserves. Anchors away. Happy birthday, U.S. Navy. Today is the U.S. Navy Day. In 1792, Robert Thomas published the Old Farmer's Almanac. It's a reference book with weather, planting charts, astronomical data, as well as recipes and other articles for the coming year. Here you can see the map for the expected winter. This is not to be confused with the Farmer's Almanac. That started a few years later, 1818, in New Hampshire. This one, the Old Farmer's Almanac, claims to have an 80% accuracy rate. 1947 brought a new era to television. The Kukla, Fran, and Ollie show appeared. Its use of puppets to gather both kid interest as well as adult interest. Take a quick peek.
We'll do this for our wonderful friends all over the country that we met. Okay.
Here we are, back with you again. Yes, by gum.
And yes, by golly.
Kukla, Fran.
And dear old Ollie.
Here we are again. Here we are again.
In 1960, Fidel Castro, who was leading the Cuban Revolution and he would become the dictator of Cuba, he executed his political and military opponents. He rounded them up and had a firing squad take care of business. Again, Fidel Castro, dictator of Cuba. 1967 saw the beginning of the ABA, the American Basketball Association. The number one goal of this group was to force a merger with the NBA to try and get more teams involved and get more money to players. The ABA lasted from 1967 to 1976, and four teams, the Nets, the Nuggets, the Pacers, and the Spurs, did merge with the NBA. The most famous of the players? Dr. J. 1987. It's the first time we used dolphins that we had trained in the military. We trained the dolphins. We sent them over to the Middle East around Kuwait. Their number one job at first was to protect our oil interests. In Kuwait, the Middle East had a lot of oil, and they were kind of making sure things were okay. In 2010, a mine collapsed in Chile in South America. It was a 121-year-old mine, and for 69 days, the miners were trapped 2,000 feet below the surface. On this day, October 13th, the last of the miners was pulled out. Take a look at this NBC News clip, hosted by Brian Williams.
On our broadcast tonight, one by one, the miners trapped for 2 months are brought to freedom in a rescue mission the whole world is watching, while on the surface, the tears and cheers and joyful reunions.
Again and again and again, prayers answered. It all began shortly after midnight local time as a rescue engineer strapped into the 26-inch wide escape capsule named Phoenix 2 and then began the still unproven manned trip below, 2,040 feet down a shaft through some of the hardest rock on Earth. 17 minutes, 22 seconds later, first contact. It worked on the way down, and soon, as 1 billion viewers around the world watched the image like a transmission from the moon, 31-year-old Florencio Avalos would prove with this first trip to the surface, the capsule worked both ways. At 11 minutes after midnight, as Florencio was the first to end this 70-day crisis, his son, 7-year-old Byron, touched everyone's hearts. Up next, 39-year-old Mario Sepulveda. When he cleared the escape pod, his celebration thrilled a nation. He surprised Chile's president and rescuers with souvenirs, pieces of rock from the cave-in. His energy belying a man trapped in a mine for more than 2 months. They now call him Super Mario. He hugged and kissed just about everyone, and then said of his ordeal, "I met God. I met the devil. God won." No one is...
Off October birthdays, 1925, Margaret Thatcher, the first female Prime Minister of England. 1941, the music you hear in the background is of Paul Simon. Simon started out with Simon and Garfunkel, then had a very great solo career, still around today. You Can Call Me Al, Kodachrome, Cecilia, many other great tunes. You'll enjoy that all the way through to the end now. 1967. Trevor Hoffman started out with the San Diego Padres, ended with the Milwaukee Brewers. He is Major League Baseball's all-time career saves leader. And last but not least, in 1989, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, also known as AOC, she's a Democratic congressman from the state of New York. She is the youngest woman ever to serve in Congress. Although she graduated from Boston University, she's often given a lot of grief because of her background as a bartender and a waitress. Well, that's October 13th, and as we talk about it all the time, October is Anti-Bullying Month. According to EducationCorner.com, 2 areas where most bullying occurs in schools are in a classroom that's unattended or in the hallways and by the lockers, again, when there's not an adult around. So let's go back to something we said about Homeland Security. Help us out. If you see something, say something. All right, everybody, remember this about kindness. Kindness is a gift that everyone can afford to give. Be kind, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow on the 14th.